sing Trust and Obey, hymn number 590. It doesn't have a...
We can look on the hymnal, 590. We will do the hymnal because we'll only do the first and last.
Finding it.
590. When we walk with the Lord in the light of His word, what a glory He sheds on our way. While we do His good will, He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. 5. Then in fellowship sweet we will sit at His feet, or we'll walk by His side in the way. For He says we will do, where He sends we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Okay, next we will sing May We Glorify the Lord.
And we can stand up.
Let's stand and sing. May we glorify the Lord. We are not our own, we are bought with a price, and our bodies are a living sacrifice, and the dwelling place of the Spirit of Christ. So let's glorify the Lord in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirits. May we glorify the Lord in the way we live, in the praise we give. May we glorify the Lord.
All right. Well, I think you might take a seat, please. Thank you again for your endurance. The Bible says that those that endure till the end will be saved. That's right. And we are so thankful for you guys making the decision to be here. I know we can get a lot of blessings and benefit from the information that Dr. Tamayo is going to share with us. And at the end of the presentation, he's going to give us an opportunity to make questions. So write your questions if so that you don't forget, or if you can't remember, that's fine. But at the end of the presentation, Dr. Tamayo will give us opportunities to answer any kind of question, right, Doctor? You know everything. All right, thank you, Doctor. God bless you, and it's your time.
Thank you so much, Pastor. I think I can use this again so that I will be.
Sure.
Do I sound better?
Yeah, it was on. Oh, this one you
Yeah,
said?
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I have it. Yeah, you can hear me better? All right, very good.
You want to stand for that, maybe? Or where do you want to go? You want to go up to?
Yeah, maybe I can, wherever. Or you are probably more comfortable if I will stay there? Okay, yes.
Am I going to say Andrew, Rebecca? Does Andrew need this?
No. In my,
He said
Or
to
you
give
want
it
this?
back to him.
Okay, yes.
But I wasn't sure. I had got it wrong.
Yeah, the presentation is there, but in case I would be lost, at least I have a reference point.
And the clicker he has.
Does he need, Andrew said he was going to.
Oh, he's going to change it?
Unless he wants control of it.
You want the clicker or somebody else?
I can use it, yeah.
Okay.
Is this going to be recorded, Pastor?
That's a good question. This specific presentation, I don't know if he's doing the live stream, but
Yes.
Yeah, as long as you do live stream, it should be.
That would be good, if you could.
let me tell if he can. I don't know.
Yeah, you can record me. Even my students, they record me, so I don't have a problem being recorded. There are also presentations that I go live,
He's gonna do
but it is stopped for the time being because of time constraints. My schedule have become too busy. So I used to give a presentation once a week. That was every Thursday. But please help us pray about it because we would like to resume the presentations, that all these presentations should be available, at least on Facebook. But we are trying to build something that would be more or less stable, as people would be interested to look for it, so that they should be available both on Facebook and YouTube. I don't know how to use, I haven't had any account on TikTok or anything, but many of us are more familiar with Facebook and YouTube, at least. All right, so this is just going to be very short, something very central for all diseases, all chronic diseases, including bacterial and viral infections. And this is something to do with our immune system. So I entitled it as 10 counterattacks against chronic disease. And it's basically on boosting the immune system. So when we support the body's immune response with proper nutrition, which is the first one I would like to point out here, and other factors, which we will also talk about, the immune system, the chronic diseases can be prevented or reversed. We can totally prevent, because we can have control over them. As we started last time, last Friday, that during the Vespers service, that we pounded upon making the right choices. So that if we make the right choices, even in the midst of bacterial or viral overload, even in the midst of factors such as stress, even if there are individuals who stress us out on a daily basis, we still can prevent the onset of disease. And if there is an onset of disease, we still can reverse the disease process. Are you with me? Yes, we can do that. And it is very central that we understand how proper nutrition can help us by the grace of God. Because it is only Him who is going to enable us and who is going to empower us. So these are 10 helpful practical key points on boosting our immune response. First, I would like us to understand how the immune system works. So the immune system is our major defense mechanism from disease. That's the reason why we call it as immune, because it is our defense system against any of these factors. It can be biological factors, it can be physical factors, it can be social factors, it can also be other factors that may bombard our mental, our physical, and even our emotional faculties. So generally, our immune system involves a family of body cells, such as some specific white blood cells, tissues, immune tissues, and immune organs that are dedicated to work together in fighting against invaders that attack the body. So this is a team of body cells. This is a team of body tissues and a team of organs in the body that God put there. It is God's design that if in case sin comes in, when we transgress the laws of health, the body is still able to recuperate and get out of that condition. You see, God is a God of love. He loves us so much that He already put that system in the body so that we are able to get out of that circumstance. It's just like when we are put in a situation that we don't know what to do. God put that instinct in us to pray for help, to look for help. It becomes automatic that, Lord, I am in this situation, please help me. That even at the spur of a moment when we are, for example, I hope not, that we get into an accident. Normally, we say, Lord, save me. It becomes automatic. The body is still the same biologically, physiologically as the body's natural response. We have that automatic response by the body, whether we like it or not. It has already been put by the Lord. That even before we were created, before we were conceived by our moms, before that conception, God already had that design in us. And I'm very emphatic about this because knowing that when the gene of our mother and our father were put together, those genes have already those individual capacities to form us into that design that God already had established even before we were born, even before we were conceived. And they are all built in. Just for you to just for your information, that I studied so much about the genes because that's my area of specialty. I call that as, in my transcript, it says there, molecular medical genetics. What does it mean? That I have learned about human diseases at the gene level. And that I studied how amazing the body works, even at the biochemical level and at the cellular level for my academic training. God showed me all these things. Though I would say it's academic training, but yet it's quite different if we see it, if I see it in the perspective of the Creator God. You see, scientists are generated from universities, you know. I have worked with a lot of scientists around the world, and they see it as a physical thing, but in my perspective, as an Adventist Christian, I see it in the perspective of our Creator God. Though I don't see it totality because God has revealed to me only a small fraction of the knowledge that is still to be unfolded when we get to heaven. We will still be learning through eternity. But yet I believe that the Lord has placed something there in order for us to recuperate from any of these factors that we as humans are faced to. These invaders, including disease-causing bacteria, the viruses, parasites, and fungi that may gain entry into the body either through the mouth, even the things that we eat, through the nose, the air that we breathe. This air is not sterile. We have floating microorganisms airborne at that. While I'm speaking, probably I'm spewing not only pure air, but it could be some viruses, maybe bacteria, that may be pathogenic or disease-causing, but yet you are not going to get sick because the body has been designed by God so that whatever is there, the Lord already has put in order for us to fight against them. There can be introduced into the body through the eyes and through the injured skin. If there is any cut through the skin, then this could be some portal of entries for these disease-causing microorganisms to invade the body. In fact, we are exposed to any of these invaders all the time, even when we are asleep, even how much effort we put into disinfecting everything. They are everywhere. But we do not get sick once we develop a highly efficient immune response. Please note of this word, highly efficient. Highly efficient. The body could exterminate them either in a non-specific or specific way through our 3 lines of defense mechanisms. So here, we are going to understand that these are working even now, these 3 lines of defenses. So let's go first on the first line of defense. The first line of defense, I would compare it to the fence around our property. So we build a fence around our property, right? It's just like how the body is. That's our first line of defense. The first line of defense would prevent the entry of these invaders through the mucous linings, along the digestive and respiratory passages, and through the intact skin that serve as what? Physical barriers in a non-specific manner. So these are physical barriers. And this is the reason why we have to take good care of our skin. We have to take good care of the linings of our mouth. Take good care of the linings of our nose. Take good care of the linings of our digestive tract and our respiratory tract. Because God put all these as barriers for what? These microorganisms to invade the body. So this would be the forefront of our immune system. The frontliners, yes. They are the frontliners of the immune system. So even just a small scratch of the skin can be a port of entry. And you see, the skin is endowed with some biological attributes in order for us to just prevent the entry. So what do we have in the skin? You see the outermost layer of the skin, we call this as epidermis. That's the epidermis. The next layer, the deeper part, is the dermis, and then we have the hypodermis, right? Now, the epidermis has about 4 layers of cells there. And the outermost layer, which is the stratum corneum, as we call it, has dead, highly keratinized cells. These dead cells, you may say these are dead cells. Do we have dead cells in the skin? Yes, but they are so important as the frontliners. They are dead cells. They are highly keratinized. You see that keratin that it has are actually proteins that are hardened, so that when they are hardened, they would cause us insensible to the assaults, the physical assaults, even chemical, any acid or whatever. The skin can stand up to a certain extent because of the keratin that we have in that part. We call that is a stratum corneum. So it's a formidable barrier against the entry of these microorganisms. Another thing is that the skin itself is acidic, right? The sweat by itself it's always important that if we exercise, we get to the temperature of the body that would excite the sweat glands, so that when there is production of sweat, it will maintain that acidity of the skin, so that if there is any bacteria or virus or anything, microorganisms that may get in contact with the skin, they don't thrive because the skin is acidic enough. So it has an acidity of about 5.8. And it is acidic. You see, most of the bacteria and the viruses would thrive in a pH between 6.8 to 7.2. Lower than that, they will not thrive. And that's what the skin is maintaining. So it's a formidable barrier. What about the mucus linings? The mucus linings they are called mucus linings because they normally produce mucus. Mucus is a sticky substance that when it is produced, these microorganisms will stick on it and they will not go anywhere, okay? And then the body will just normally move them out. Or if they stay there, there are some special types of white blood cells that would be associated with the mucus linings such that they just engulf them. They eat them up. And if they eat them up, they are neutralized. And that's the way the body will prevent these microorganisms to get into or seep into the deeper parts, deeper tissues of the body. In case these invaders gain entry into the body, in case, there is what we call the second line of defense. The second line of defense prevents these invaders from spreading to the rest of the body. So first, the first line of defense is what again? To prevent entry. The second line of defense prevents the spread. Okay? So in case there is a bruise through the skin, it's possible that there are microorganisms that would gain entry, but then there is the second line of defense. This second line of defense will prevent it to spread to all other parts of the body. So if you are bruised, what do you observe? What's the natural response of the body? There is inflammation, right? There is what we call inflammatory reaction, just simply called inflammation. And that inflammation is just a temporary inflammation. So if it is temporary, it's in medical term, we call it as acute inflammation, right? It's just the body's natural response. It's acute inflammation in a sense that it is there for the meantime. And of course, in the inflammatory response, there is natural swelling. So it swells. And then it's painful. Of course, there is reddening. It becomes reddened. What else? There is increased temperature there because the blood will flock to that area. You see, there are white blood cells there that would be activated so that when they are activated, they produce certain inflammatory chemicals. In biochemistry, we call them as prostaglandins, cytokines, cytokinins, and some others, other inflammatory chemicals. So they are produced by responding white blood cells there and some other mast cells. And they would just cause, when they produce these inflammatory chemicals, they would attract the circulatory system. They activate the circulatory system, and they would bring in large amount of blood to that area. So that when there is large amount of blood and some fluids, you see the blood, the other part of the blood is that fluid part, we call that's blood plasma. There would be large amount of blood plasma that would come here in order to dilute the microorganisms that they may have gained entry here. And what's the meaning of that? It initiates the healing process. It initiates the healing process. And at the same time, it confines the microorganisms just right there. That's the reason why it swells. That means that it will cause the confinement of the microorganisms in that local area. It will not in any way go systemic. It will not spread to other parts of the body. It will just be confined there. And the responding white blood cells also, there are what we call macrophages. Those are white blood cells. Those are big white blood cells. We call them as monocytes, and they would just simply engulf them. They eat them up. And those microorganisms will eat them up. Vice versa. The white blood cells, the macrophages, will eat up those microorganisms. And that's so interesting because God has programmed those white blood cells to do so. Okay? Even if you are not even thinking about it, the Lord already had programmed those white blood cells to do that as an automatic response. So beautiful, as we realize. And no astute chemist can even imagine how wonderful it is to see how this would work for our own good, right? Now, there is development of fever if in case the inflammatory response will stay for 3 days or even more. There could be fever that develops. Now, fever is also a natural response as part of the second line of defense, which means that if you have fever, don't take Tylenol immediately. Don't take paracetamol immediately. Why? Because that's part of the second line of defense. Some white blood cells will start producing a substance, we call this as pyrogens. These pyrogens, as they are produced, when they get to that part of the brain, we call that as this hypothalamus. I think I mentioned that earlier. When the pyrogen gets to the hypothalamus detects that, and it will raise the thermostat of the body. When the thermostat is raised, you see that one of the major functions of the hypothalamus is to control or to set the temperature of the body as set to the normal temperature, which is 97.4 degrees Fahrenheit, or 37.4 degrees Celsius, and 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So it sets it. But then when it detects the presence of these pyrogens, it will cause it to go up so that you develop fever. Again, don't take Tylenol when you have fever. Mild fever is important to, again, reaffirm the healing process. It's so wonderful to watch these cells do that. Okay? And so when that healing process will be initiated, will be reaffirmed through fever, then more white blood cells would be activated. They would be activated, and they will rally together to fight against those bacteria. Yes, you have a question.
Yeah, and at what point would you say, this is the time, take the Tylenol, 103, 4,
Yeah.
is there a point where you say, okay, well, this is, let the fever start, do its job, to the point where, okay, now we,
To take the Tylenol.
yeah.
Yeah. So there is what we call moderate fever, and there is also high fever. High fever. Now, if there is a raise of temperature by, let's say, 3 to 5 points, then it's still within the moderate fever, as we call it. Yes. But then if it raises beyond that fifth level, then that's the time, especially with some elderly and young children, very young children, are susceptible to developing, how do you call that, convulsions? Convulsions. So you just be very careful about that. I remember when we have 4 kids, right? We have 4 kids. We raised 4 beautiful, sweet ladies, right? The eldest is now, as I mentioned last night, she's now working with the Yale University Hospital as a registered nurse. And then my second is a nutritionist dietitian. And they are all wonderful children. And my third is still going for her licensure exam for social work. And the fourth is going to college. And she's interested to go into dental hygiene. So they have their choice. We don't push them. But I remember when they were kids, you know, my wife is a registered nurse as well. But I taught her not to administer drugs immediately, because some nurses are trained to administer the medications, right? And she's trained for that. But I told her, yes, I'm your physiologist, okay? I'm the physiologist in the family. So I hope the nurse will follow the doctor. And then I told her at the time when the kids were small, there was the tendency for us, especially for her, to panic. And let's administer this and that. And that I told her, I reminded her, you know, that's the natural response of the body. Give it the course of time for the body to naturally recuperate. And from there, she understood. And we never gave them medications if the fever is still within that framework where we know it is still safe. Okay. We were just, in other words, conservative in administering those medications. So we call these medications as antipyretic, coming from the word pyrogen. Remember pyrogen? That pyrogen is that substance that would signal the hypothalamus to increase the temperature. Okay? And if you recall the term antipyretic meaning it's against the pyrogens. It fights, it nullifies the pyrogens so that it will cause the temperature to go down because it fights against the pyrogens. All right? So fever should not be feared about because that's the natural response of the body. Yes. It would be good for us to administer something that will help the white blood cells to do their work, not for the immune cells to dampen their work. Because antipyretics would dampen the work of the white blood cells. Remember that they are the ones that would produce the pyrogens, right? Now, if you administer antipyretic drugs, then you are sending the message to the white blood cells, don't produce the white blood cells. Don't produce the pyrogens. So they become lazy. They are immobilized in the production. But then, if you give, for example, some natural remedies at the time, then the white blood cells will be happy. Why? Because that would boost their work. For example, instead of giving the antipyretic drugs, why not pound some green leafy vegetables, and then after pounding them, you can put maybe a little honey there and then give it to your child. That will boost the functions of the white blood cells. And I will be, if we will have time, I will be teaching you how to do that. How to identify some vegetables just right in your kitchen. What can you do with them when there are emergencies? If there are nothing in the fridge, then at least there is water in the kitchen. Make use of the water. One time somebody called me during the wee hours of the night. In the Philippines, it's opposite time. They are 13 hours earlier than what we have here in Texas. And then he called and he was crying. He was asking me about what to do with his daughter. The daughter was running high fevers. And so I said, what do you have there? Anything that you have there. And then I asked him, do you have this? Do you have that? And he said, no, we don't have. Okay, at least you have drinking water there? Oh, yes, we have drinking water. Do you have salt there? Yes, we have salt. Okay, make use of this. Make use of this. They are just excellent home remedies. And he did what I instructed. After a few minutes, the fever was gone. And the baby slept through the night. And she was able to recuperate from there. These natural remedies, though they may work slower, but they are sure that they are helping the white blood cells do their part. And if we will have time, maybe in one session when I will probably come back, Pastor, again, there will be some natural remedies that are just right there in the kitchen. They are just right there at the backyard that you may make use of, right? Yes, how I wish I could. All right, so the third line of defense. Let's take a look at the third line of defense. The third line of defense works with the second line of defense by waging a specific, now this time it's a specific attack against these invaders. It is here where some white blood cells called the B lymphocytes make highly specific antibodies that tag or immobilize these invaders, which will later be directly killed by T lymphocytes, such as the natural killer cells. You see, these are white blood cells. We generally call them as lymphocytes. You see, the term white blood cell is just a general term for these immune cells. So we have different kinds. If you classify them technically as granulocytes and agranulocytes, the granulocytes are the macrophages, the phagocytes, as we generally call them. And then we have the agranulocytes, the lymphocytes, and the monocytes. Now, of the lymphocytes, there are two major types of the lymphocytes, the B and the T. The B lymphocytes develop in the red bone marrow. That's why they are called B lymphocytes. It stands for bone marrow. The T lymphocytes become immunocompetent in the thymus. Where is the thymus? It's just found at the back of the sternum. And the thymus is the site by which these T lymphocytes become immunocompetent. But the thing is, as we get older, the thymus gland becomes smaller and smaller and smaller until very old age that this thymus becomes so negligible. Okay? And that's the reason why many of the elderly will have that immune system to go down. Okay? But God has something special, even at old age. And we will include that probably during the question and answer portion. But just for you to understand here that the B lymphocytes are made by God in order for them to make specialized, highly specific antibodies that don't kill the microorganisms, but what they do is they tag them, they immobilize them. It's just like, if you may imagine, the cuff that police officers will put to the law, how do you call that? Yes, those who are disobedient sometimes. So they put the cuff so that they will not run away just like that, okay? If they see the criminal, of course, they have to immobilize them, okay? They are going to be put in the prison cell for the meantime, or they are just put with the cuff, right? I don't really know the system, though. But I could imagine that that is what the antibodies would do. They immobilize those microorganisms. They chain them together. They link them together, and thus you would see that they would clump together. That's the work of the antibodies. Now, after that, after these microorganisms are immobilized, what the T lymphocytes, there are T lymphocytes that would specifically kill them. And then after that, there are some other white blood cells that will devour or phagocytose them. They will eat them up until they are no longer there in the body. It's so wonderful. It's just so amazing to see them and observe them in laboratory-controlled condition. We can mimic that. But it's much more amazing to see them working in the natural system of the body. So now you understand how the immune system works. The second thing that I would like to emphasize here, as I already introduced to you, is develop your immune response through proper nutrition and other key factors. Central to supporting the body to develop our immune system is what? Proper nutrition, which starts in our mother's womb and will further develop after birth. You see, when a woman is pregnant, it is imperative to support her with proper nutrition, because she is not supporting only herself, but she is supporting her baby. My eldest daughter is on the family way. She will be delivering her son, our grandson soon, in June, the second week of June. That's the expected date. And being a nurse, I would think that she knows what she is doing. But then, at times, she would call me. She would call me, "Dad, what do I do if I have this and that? What could I eat?" Okay. And then I would say, "You have your sister, your second sister. You better ask her." And then my second daughter still would consult with me. So when they were doing the academic training, I remember my daughter, when she was going through those bottleneck courses in the nursing program, pharmacology, what else, pathophysio. I remember those nights, and during the wee hours of the night, she would call me and ask, "Daddy, I'm reviewing for my exam tomorrow. Could you please help me?" So why not ask your mom? Sometimes I do that. She is the nurse, and so you better ask. But then, you see, I feel so excited for them, and at the same time, I feel still that I'm important to them because they still call me and ask. And I would remind her, you see, you are carrying your baby, and you need to have proper nutrition because you are ensuring that your baby will be healthy as the Lord grants and as the Lord blesses your steps. You will deliver your baby. Now, just 2 weeks ago, she was nervous about her diagnosis, that her sugar level goes high, and she may develop preeclampsia. You know, there are some of you who know this, and it's pretty dangerous. And so she asked me, what should I do? My sugar level is this high. And then I asked her, what have you been doing? Don't send the blame to me, Dad. Because she tended to, of course, to tell me, okay, I've been doing the best I can. But why are you asking me what did I do? And then I asked her, do you eat late at night? And then I said, yeah. And she said, yes, I eat late at night. And then what do you eat? Sometimes I still eat the fruits. Sometimes I eat pizza and so on. Okay, would you try? This is just not a recommendation, but you can try, okay? You eat for your dinner before 5. And she said, no, I'm still at work. I'll get out of the hospital between 7 and 7:30. Okay, so what can you do? Before you leave work, then you can eat. But I cannot eat. At least you can drink something. So she would prepare smoothies for herself before going home. Then she already had her dinner. Okay, so she tried that. And then try avoiding the fruits for dinner because it will surely shoot up your sugar level. Because at that time, your insulin should not be released by the pancreas before you go to sleep so that your melatonin level goes up so that you are able to sleep well. So avoid the fruits for dinner. So what do I eat? So I told her, I designed something for her. And she tried it. And she said, this is the best glucose level that I had in my life. And I'm so amazed with the result. So you're not really preeclamptic. It's just about how you schedule your eating and eating patterns. How you schedule the food that you eat for the day. Because scheduling means that we are abiding with the circadian rhythm that God has established in our bodies. So the body is following a particular pattern, when to release certain hormones, when to activate this organ of the body, and so on. So it is imperative for us to follow the circadian rhythm that the Lord has established, just like the rising of the sun and setting of the sun. Whether we like it or not, it comes out from the east at that particular time, and it sets at the west when it is time. The same thing with the body. There is time for the pancreas to release insulin. There is time for the pineal glands to release melatonin, whether we like it or not. But then we tend to disrupt this circadian rhythm with the improper schedules of our eating and our eating patterns, with our sleep and sleep patterns. And we'll be elaborating some more of that if there will be more questions from there. So proper nutrition includes partaking of well-balanced meals of whole. Your key term there is whole vegetables, whole fruits, whole grains, whole nuts, and whole legumes that are endowed with health-giving minerals, vitamins, phytochemicals, and water. I don't have to elaborate this further, but you may have questions later. Third, key point, eat raw, whole plant foods that provide antioxidant vitamins C, E, B6, A, D, for proper immune support. We call this as ACID. Oh, I'm sorry. ACID vitamins. A, C, E, and D, plus the B6. You see, these are immune support vitamins. So they are also called, we have the ACE vitamins, right? We have the antioxidant vitamins, as we call them. What are these vitamins? Generally, we understand the vitamins as cofactors. These are cofactors in order to activate a particular biochemical pathway in white blood cells so that they could work better. Now, we get these vitamins from raw plant foods, except, of course, for vitamin D. We don't get vitamin D from most plants, but there are legumes where we get vitamin D. But of course, we understand that the skin produces vitamin D when we are exposed to sunlight, right? And that's the reason why we have to be exposed to sunlight on a daily basis, the vitamin D. But most of this, they are made by plants. Vitamin C, it's not made by animals, right? The thing is, vitamin C being central among antioxidant vitamins, vitamin C can be neutralized or destroyed readily by heat. Did you hear that? Meaning to say that if we cook the vegetable, if we cook the fruit, if we make pies from the apples, apple pie, or whatever pies we make from fruits, the vitamin C is totally destroyed. We call this as heat-sensitive vitamin C, and even the B vitamins, they are heat-sensitive. And among those vitamins, we call them as water-soluble vitamins. And all water-soluble vitamins, vitamin C and the B vitamins, the B complex, they are heat-sensitive. So when they are exposed to heat, they are destroyed totally. And if they are central, vitamin C is central for immune support, we are nullifying the vitamin C that is supposed to be there to support our immune system. So then, what I recommend is for us to schedule at least a plateful of fruits and vegetables every day, raw, without cooking. Don't cook the vegetables. At least one serving per day in order to support our immune system. And we have seen this. This is just like a miracle, a magic. A person who has chronic inflammation, a person who comes to us with some form of cancer, after a number of days or weeks, we have seen a dramatic increase of energy, a dramatic increase in health, a dramatic change that would happen. And we have seen this before our very eyes. And what did we do? We just had to modify the food that they eat, with emphasis at that very particular time, with emphasis on raw vegetables and fruits in their whole form. It's just like magic. And the Lord already put those healing properties in plants that we have to just make use of them on a daily basis. Not only the time when we get sick, but at the time when we are at the top of our health, we just practice eating them. During the time of trouble, we may not even have time to cook food. We may just have time to harvest the food and eat them where they are. What about that? Have you ever experienced going to the farm, okay? Just gather the vegetable and then eat it direct. They are safe to eat if they have not been sprayed with chemicals, of course. And you can just eat them even without washing them, because the vegetables themselves and the fruits themselves have antibiotic properties. We have tested this in the laboratory. Gather the vegetable there without washing it. We just pound it and then put them in a plate of bacteria, and the bacteria will not thrive in any way. We have seen this in many of the laboratories, and I have brought in some even high school students in my lab. They come and test these vegetables and fruits, and we test them using some bacteria, plates of bacteria, and then we put those extracts in them, and the bacteria will just simply die. They will not thrive. And we tested them several times. And if there are high school students or even college students who may be interested to do some experiments in the lab, I would welcome them in my laboratory. So connect them to us. All right. Now, this would boost the immune system. And we have to eat them on a daily basis. Citrus fruits, for example, we have a lot here in Texas, especially when you come to the valley. Citrus fruits and other fruits and green leafy vegetables contain high amounts of vitamin C. You see, when the plants make food, it is actually, they are also making not only glucose, not only carbohydrates, not only other macronutrients, but they are also at the same time making vitamin C. Now, in relation to this, when you harvest your own vegetables and fruits, you have to harvest them when it is still during the early hours of the day. Why? Because when the sun strikes, when it gets very hot, the vitamin C will be neutralized. So if you are after the vitamin C, see to it that you harvest the fruit, harvest the vegetable early morning when it is not yet hot. We did some experiments when I took my advanced biochemistry we did experiments looking for the levels of vitamin C when you harvest the fruit early morning, when you harvest the fruit at noontime. In the Philippines, it's very hot. In the valley, it's also hot at noontime. And then when you harvest the fruit or the vegetable when the sun is about to set. So we compared the levels of vitamin C. And comparing the vitamin C, you get more of it when you harvest the vegetables or the fruits early morning before 10 o'clock. So harvest them. During winters, it may be about 10 o'clock, but during summers, you harvest them from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. That's the peak by which vitamin C is very high. So if you have your own vegetables at your backyard, harvest them early morning. All right, almonds, peanuts, hazelnuts, sunflower seeds, spinach, and broccoli contain vitamin E and vitamin D. These are some plant sources of vitamin D. Bananas, avocados, potatoes, chickpeas, hummus, and other more varieties. They have high amounts of vitamin B6. And these are all immune boosters. Now, what about sources of vitamin A? Carrots, all those yellow foods. You're familiar with some of them. Sweet potatoes, pumpkins, cantaloupe, peppers, and other yellow vegetables and fruits contain high amounts of vitamin A. So this is just giving some examples where you get those vitamins. Now, also, there are key minerals that I would like to point out here as important to support the immune system, like selenium, iron, copper, zinc, and some other phytochemicals. They are derived from herbs. Now, herbs, you are familiar with cilantro, you're familiar with basil, you're familiar with rosemary, and some other herbs. God made these plants in order to especially extract from the soil the iron, the selenium, and the copper. You don't find iron from anywhere, but they are found in the soil. How can they get into the plant systems? Through their root system, right? That's why you get them fresh from vegetables and fruits. With herbs, God put their ability to extract those special minerals from soil in order for us to partake them on a daily basis. What else? We have ginger, onions, garlic, turmeric, black peppers. They have these minerals. You see, different plants have different abilities to extract and store these important minerals and vitamins. So you don't get so much of vitamin A from, let's say, from nuts, because they are found more in yellow foods. So they are endowed with different abilities in order to extract, to produce, and to store those special vitamins and minerals. Thus, they should be eaten daily in their natural forms to keep the immune system working against disease. Now, number 4, we have to totally avoid the meats, the processed foods, canned goods, cold foods, and foods high in refined sugars and refined carbohydrates. Now, this may be a challenge to many of us, especially with refined carbohydrates. We still include pasta. They are coming from refined carbohydrates, refined grains. We still include in our diet breads. Of course, there are some ways to make good bread, okay, healthier than what we buy from the store. Okay, I know some of you do prepare your own food. Some of you may bake some of these foods that you partake and serve to your family. And some of you may know how to prepare them on a healthy way. But buying from the groceries, we discourage that. One thing, the flour by itself is already processed, right? It's already processed. When it is processed, they become powdery form, right? They become flour. But there's no way for the flour to extend its shelf life beyond 7 days unless they put some preservatives there. What do they put there? Mostly bromide. They put some other preservatives. Others may use formaldehyde. Did you know that? There are those who put formaldehyde in order to discourage fungal growth, the growth of some microorganisms there and the growth of certain bugs. In order to avoid that, they put these preservatives. So the flour that we use already have some preservatives. And it's important, yes, because the shelf life should be long. So it gets to the consumers. But if possible, if we can just plant some sweet potatoes or potatoes and then gather them from our backyard. I know that here in Kerrville, you have a lot of land area. I have seen that you have a lot of natural resource in this area. Please pray for us to look for a place also. God might direct us here. Who knows? Who knows? But one of the wisest advice of Mrs. White is for us to produce our own food. In our universities, Adventist schools, we were taught of food production, at least in the Philippines. I have seen that. And Mrs. White's vision was for our young people to be taught how to produce their own food. But these days, I don't know. Nursing students, they wouldn't go to the field to learn how to do farming. Medical students or pre-med students, they won't go. But before, I remember, in the Philippines, before you can graduate as a nurse, before you graduate as a professional who will do white-collar job, you will be taught how to produce your own food. Yes. Farming was taught. Food production was taught. And we have to teach our young people, even in this church. In Edinburgh, where we have been for 20 years, we have what we call community garden at the back of the, and we are rebuilding it. We are trying to restore it because we want to produce. With the high prices of commodities, gas prices, we have to be more creative in producing our own food, because that's the way by which we can avoid refined carbohydrates, refined products, produce our own. You see, if we partake any of these processed foods, ultra-processed at that, they cause inflammation, and the inflammation that I'm talking about here is not the acute inflammation that we described, but chronic, long-term inflammation, which we don't like, okay? Because if there is long-term inflammation, that can cause the blood vessels to be occluded with fatty plaques. Development of fatty plaques actually start with arterial inflammation. Where is that arterial inflammation coming from? It's coming from the food that we eat. Those preservatives that are incorporated in the food that we buy from the store actually are inflammatory, and they cause the arterial walls, the walls of the arteries, to be inflamed. And once they are inflamed, they would attract cholesterol, they would attract calcium, they attract cell debris and other substances, and they will pile up there, and they will cause the blood vessels to narrow down, and that is a culprit for many of the diseases because the circulatory system is impaired. Now, fifth is for us to drink plenty of warm water to flush out the body's toxic wastes. The key word there is warm, not cold, not the freezer cold water. Why? Yes, warm water may be just the amount of heat that the body could take, not the hot. Not hot water for you to drink. I mentioned about the hot water earlier, how the body is able to tolerate for external use, but for internal use, if it is too hot, you are destroying the first line of defense. The mucous lining could be destroyed because the drink or the food that you may be partaking may be too hot. Yeah, the tea may be good, but let it cool down a little bit. Don't take hot teas. Hot coffee, no. The hot tea, don't make it too hot because you are destroying, even the linings of the mouth is destroyed because it is too hot. And then if it is too hot, there will be no more mucus lining intact, and the production of mucus may not even be possible when it is needed. It may differ from one person to another, but the boiling temperature is 100 degrees Celsius, right? In terms of Fahrenheit, it's 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it should be 5 to 10 points below the boiling temperature, which is in Celsius, it should be, if it is 100 degrees, it should be about 90, between 80 to 90 degrees Celsius. We use Fahrenheit. Okay. In Fahrenheit, from 212, that should be about 170.
I always make very hot water. I'm going to cool it down, right?
Cool it down a little bit. Yes. Thank you. Yes. You see, sometimes I speak too general, but it's good you ask for some specific temperature. Yes. All right. The tea that is coming from herbs. Yes, I understand. Yes. Thank you. And please shoot any question at any time. Okay. Now, water supplies the major component of body fluids. Now, one thing that I usually ask my students is that, where do you think water is going? When you drink water, well, where will it go? Okay, yes. It goes to the stomach, and then it goes to the small intestines, and together with some water-soluble substances, they are absorbed direct into the bloodstream, and from the bloodstream, they are distributed to all the trillions of cells in the body, okay? But there are some of these fluids that would be part of the blood plasma, part of the cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid that you find in the brain, and then part of the fluids that would go to your joints, okay? We call this a synovial fluid, so that you are able to move your joints pretty well, and some other fluids that you find, including the fluids in the eyes. So we have the vitreous humor there, and it has some fluids there. Now, if you imagine that if you are dehydrated, these fluids, the amount of these fluids will go down, especially the fluids in the blood plasma. And when this fluid is low, then the blood that is supposed to be circulated at a particular speed will become sluggish. It slows down. When it slows down, the efficiency of delivery of the blood to all other parts of the body, especially the brain, would also slow down. Okay? And when it slows down, it affects the different organs of the body.
So can you drink enough water but still not be hydrated?
Yeah, you know, the natural water that we drink should have some minerals in it. But you know, our system now has become different. I remember when I was a little boy, we just go to the open well and then draw water from there. As a little boy, that was my daily chore, to go and fetch water from the well. And our home, it is still there. Our home is at the top of the hill, and the well is down here. And that was my daily chore. Morning and evening, I would fetch water. And that water is just fresh, sweet water. If it is sweet water, it's living water. It has some minerals in it. Okay? A combination of sweet and maybe salty, because there are some minerals there. And we drink from there. And I would put just in earthen vessels. You know, you imagine those earthen vessels. We didn't have faucets before, no pipelines. And that was so natural. But these days, we just open the faucet. But at times, we don't drink from there, right? Because it's not safe for drinking, as they say. It's not safe. So where do we get water? We get water from those bottles. And you see, this water would go through a machine. That's what we call reverse osmosis, where there will be filtration. They will filter out those natural minerals. So when it gets to us, it may be pure water, they say, no minerals. That's the reason why I tell my students, put a little amount of Himalayan salt, put a little amount of molasses, and then just shake it and then drink it. Because if you are devoid of those minerals, even if you are drinking water, you will have mineral imbalance. Yes, Pastor.
I've been kind of in my mind, are you against the warmth of water that you're talking through your drinking? And you talked about taking water out of the well. What is too cold? We talked about what is too hot. What is too cold?
You know, the normal body temperature should be within that amount of water as well. Thank you. Yeah, what is too cold and what is too hot? You see, based on the normal body temperature, what did I say the normal body temperature is? About 90, all right, 98.6, right. Yeah, about that temperature. If you raise it a little higher, it should not be too far from there. If you are going to let it a little cooler, yes, it should not be far from there. Because when you drink that water, if you drink that water will adjust its temperature according to the temperature of the body. Okay, so that's the temperature. About the minerals that she asked, because she asked.
You guys said molasses. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
You said the coffee, a little soda, and said molasses.
Yeah, especially for.
That is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, especially for those. You see, there are those who may need a supply of glucose at the time when they are exercising, and that's the reason why there are those, if they go for exercise, they are drinking Gatorade to supply their minerals and to supply a little amount of glucose that they need when they are exercising. And that's the reason why I mentioned about that. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. Yes. Yes.
That occurred to me that water temperature, body temperature would be considered lukewarm, which is that it brings away the skin.
Yes, yes. Yeah, thank you for reminding me that. Yes. Yes. There is one question here. Later on, we will address it during the question and answer. Let me finish this one quickly, okay? I'm sorry, I tend to over-explain things. All right, moreover, external use of water includes proper hand washing and personal hygiene and taking alternating hot and cold showers daily. You may have questions later on, but using water for external use is important, okay? But not too hot also, because it would cause the normal production of oil in the skin, and it could cause some problems with the integrity of the skin. All right. Now eat a variety of raw fruits and vegetables to help hydrate the body. A variety. Your key term there is variety. Variety. Consuming watermelons, these are just some examples. Cucumbers, celery, strawberries, lettuce, and other plant foods help hydrate the body, as most of them contain 70 to 90% water. So don't discount the water content in the fruits and in the vegetables that we eat. All right, you may also include fresh fruits, vegetables, maybe smoothies at times, juices, shakes, and some others, the way you may want to prepare. Okay. And then aside from hydration, they provide antioxidant vitamin C, as we mentioned earlier, help balance the levels of alkali and acids in the body, fight off bacteria, and help in the prevention of viral infections, heart disease, and urinary tract infections. We have seen this. Those who have urinary tract infections, you just give them watery fruits, and they are able to recuperate from that. Okay. 7, totally avoid consumption of alcohol, carbonated drinks, caffeinated drinks, and all forms of refined sugars. All right, I don't have to elaborate on that, so you may have questions later on. It can also stop the production of immune chemicals if we drink any of these drinks. The production of immune chemicals such as the cytokines, we mentioned that, which can lead to the body's susceptibility to infections. Soda contain certain harmful ingredients and high amounts of refined sugars and cause the immune system to weaken. All right, many of you know that, if not all of you. And both caffeine and refined sugar would weaken the bones as they cause the body to waste calcium and other minerals and vitamin D. So if we partake those sugary drinks, they could cause the body to waste those calcium that are supposed to be there to strengthen the bones, but they are taken out from there. And this could cause bone problems, bone diseases. All right, number 8, engage in physical fitness exercise to keep a strong immune system. Right. Many of you may be doing some exercises, physical fitness exercises, and there is much more to say about exercise. Physical activity helps the circulation of the blood, and of course, the antibodies and white blood cells together, and it would help in fighting against infection and disease. Also, during exercise, the body temperature increases, and this is so important. The increase in body temperature as we exercise, and thus it exterminates harmful microorganisms, just as how fever does. I explained about fever earlier. Engage in brisk walking, whatsoever exercise that you may engage in. Make it regular, make it progressive. Regular aerobic, outdoor, physical fitness activities are so important. And managing your stress. I would like to just go through it. Maybe you will have questions later on. Get some early morning sunshine. Yes, this is part of the New Start, as we mentioned earlier, to boost your immune system. All right, let me see. Number 10, let's go straight to number 10. Sleep deep for 8 hours each night to manage stress, to improve your immune system. You see at the time, we call this as 10-2 window. 10 o'clock in the evening up to 2 o'clock in the morning, early morning. Those are the peak hours by which the immune cells will be replenished. If you miss those hours, you would be missing that time when the body makes those immune cells. And then regular 7 to 8 hours of nightly sleep allows the red bone marrow to make new immune cells. I think I mentioned that. And it allows renewal of worn-out cells, including some white blood cells made in the red bone marrow. Moreover, well-managed stress guarantees sound sleep. I mentioned about the stress earlier that boosts the immune system. You know this one. When stress becomes chronic, the body would be physically and mentally drained, as we have seen the connection between the mind and the body, leading to depression, anxiety, and sleep disorders. Physical consequences include high blood pressure, heart disease, and digestive issues. And generally, as I mentioned, chronic lifestyle diseases could develop. And then I would like to add here is healthy social connections with friends and family. I mentioned this earlier this morning, and making time for relaxation promote good health and immunity against disease. If you are sick, don't ever isolate yourself from family and from the community of believers. Importantly, always remember that whatever challenges we face in this life, and this is very central in my presentation, know that God is in full control. It is imperative then to keep close to Him in constant, earnest prayers and serious searching for His will through daily study of God's Word. And we should not neglect that. I would like to leave this one to you. In Psalm 84, 11-12, for the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord will give grace and glory. No good thing will be withheld from them that walk uprightly. O Lord of hosts, blessed is the man that trusts in Thee. Whatever circumstances that come in this life, let us trust God that He is doing something special for all of us. So this is my contact information. If in case you may want to contact me, I will leave this one for you. And let us address these questions. If there is heart disease, not lifestyle related, on the father's side, so this can be genetic, according to the question, can it be passed on to a daughter, or is it sex-linked? Sex-linked diseases, it will maybe Y or X-linked diseases. The heart disease, not related to lifestyle. Mostly, I did a specific study on developing heart diseases due to a gene that has mutated. And we call this as LDLR genes. The LDLR gene is a family of genes that are found in the DNA, of course. So I studied different genes related to heart disease. And these LDLR genes are passed on from a parent to his or her offsprings. And we call this as autosomal dominant fashion of transmitting these genes to the next generations. And it doesn't skip generation. It means that from the father, for example, he transmits it to his children, and the children will transmit it to the next generations and the next generations. So we call this as autosomal dominant fashion of transmitting the disease. Now, this is one highlight of my studies, that even though a person may have that gene mutation, that he is able to pass on to the next generations, this is sublimed by proper nutrition. And this is one thing that many of the hospitals in the Philippines are using. I developed a protocol to detect the presence of genes even before the baby is born. And they are using that in major hospitals in the Philippines. You see, if they are able to detect that gene, that mutated gene, before the baby is born, then the doctor who is attending to the mother will already start to develop a particular recommendation for the nutritionist dietitian to design something for the mother and for her child, so that the baby, when he grows into adulthood, you see, the the expression of the disease may go from age 20 to age 40. So that the child may express that disease, that heart disease, between age 20 to 40, and then beyond, of course. But the onset, we call this as onset, at that particular age. Now I inherited that disease, and that's the reason why I got so interested to look into the genes. I have the gene for that disorder, we call that as familial hypercholesterolemia. The tendency of my dad and me and my other siblings to develop high cholesterol in the bloodstream because of that mutated gene, and that has been passed down from my grandfather to my dad to me and my other siblings. So I have that tendency to develop familial hypercholesterolemia, that high level of cholesterol that can cause my blood vessels to develop fatty plaques.
It doesn't cross the gender barrier? Doesn't cross gender barriers, everything male?
No, it can be both male and female. Yes, it can be.
Is that for cancer as well as
Yeah, yes. That's one of the major culprits why people may develop high cholesterol and develop heart disease. But not all heart diseases are due to that. Okay, there are other factors. And then I was also interested about other diseases. And so I balanced that with my other area of specialty, which is nutritional biochemistry. Because from there, I challenged the genes not to be expressed at that particular onset between 20 to 40. So that with proper nutrition, okay, it could sublime the expression of the genetic disorder. And I am a living witness and a living testimony to that. I'll be 62 in September. I passed that onset of 40 because my dad developed that disease when the symptoms when he was in his early 40s. I remember I was still a little boy when he just fell to the ground, to the floor. And I didn't understand what was going on, and they just rushed him to the hospital. He had a heart attack. And then all of a sudden, my mother announced that we are going to go vegan. You see, as a little boy, we had all the chickens at the backyard. We raised chickens, we raised goats, we raised all those for the food of the family and then to sell it out just for income, added income. And my dad was also good at planting different vegetables just around the periphery of the house. And so they just announced, now we are just selling all the chickens. We are selling all the goats. We are not eating any of this anymore. And those days, the chickens were just free roaming. They were just around, eating the grasses and the grains and so on. But then they realized probably it's the cholesterol that is going up. And I never understood all those things. I was a little boy. And that my dad never had any heart attack from then on. So he expressed the symptoms of the disease, but yet because of the change of diet and lifestyle, he was able to overcome. And I am here also, standing before you. Not that I brag about myself, not that I brag about what the Lord had given me, had revealed to me, but that I would say God is good. God is good. He allowed me to reach this age because He wants me to give this message to others. Yes. 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 It depends on the condition, and it also depends where you are at. For my dad, they just changed. I was a little boy. But then, after I did my research and I got my degree, I visited them in Hawaii, and I stayed with them for 4 months to teach them how to change. Because at that time, my dad went back to eating. You see, from the Philippines, they migrated to Hawaii, and it may not be directly related to food and other lifestyle factors, but it has enhanced the tendency for him to develop high triglycerides, high cholesterol, and some other things. So then my dad had to change the diet. So it depends on where you are at, where you are starting at. So that I stayed with them to teach them how to do it. Now, it's not just one size fits all, okay? It depends where you are at. So if I say change diet and lifestyle, I would say I would like you to know more about your condition. I would like to know more about your circumstances so that I can help you design something. And I have helped people with these different conditions. I also inherited my mom's diabetes mellitus type 2. And that's the reason why I did a lot of research on diabetes mellitus type 2 also. The functions of the pancreas, insulin level, and so on and so forth. Because I got both of these genes. Genes for familial hypercholesterolemia and the genes for diabetes mellitus type 2. And I'm happy that since God had entrusted to me this knowledge, I practice it for myself. And thus, I never had increased glucose level. I never had all these symptoms because from there I learned from my experience and from my academic training that these diseases, even if it is genetic, that can be passed on through the generations. Now here, the question is it sex-linked or no? The heart diseases, normally, the genes that are related to heart disease are not in any way gender-specific. It can be both male and female, all right? Let me just address one more question here. What can you do to grow less gray hair? I already have some gray hair as well, yes.
The answer is let it all fall off.
Yes. I'm not sure about this, but just probably avoid those harsh ingredients with shampoos if it's minimizing the use of shampoo and other chemicals that may help, because that's what I do. If I use my shampoo, it's just a drop of it, and then just enough to clean myself. And even with I don't really use soap for my body. I just use a little bit, just put a drop, and then that's it, and then just scrub it, because you don't want that the natural oil of the skin will be removed totally. So that's what I do. I just scrub my.
That leads me to my question.
Yes.
Is it important to have a daily shower? Is it good to wait?
Come again? Sorry.
Is it important to have a daily
Daily.
shower?
All right. Thank you for asking that. You know, when I was in the Philippines, when we were in the Philippines, I had to shower every day, morning and evening. Because when going to work, I would pass through heavy traffic. You know, I taught at the University of the Philippines when I passed through heavy traffic. And there is a smog, there is a smoke, and there's all those impurities in the air. And I used to ride my motorcycle, my motorbike. And so I would be exposed. And then my father-in-law pitied me, and he gave me an old car. So I drove that old car to the university. And you see, in the Philippines, you sweat a lot. It's a lot, a high humidity. And so I had to shower morning and evening. And I was younger then. I was younger. And I didn't have any problem with my natural oil of the skin. No problem, even if I would shower on a daily basis. Now that I'm getting older, all right, I have to skip one day. Anyway, here in the U.S., we don't really sweat, okay? We don't really sweat. So that skipping a day is not bad, okay? You don't have to shower. You can shower only maybe 2-3 times a week. That's fine, as long as you maintain your daily hygiene. Yeah, even using toothpaste and other things, you don't have to do it every day. Showering, you don't have to do it every day, especially if you incorporate the hot and cold showers. You know, if it is too hot, it may destroy the oil generation, the natural smoothness of the skin. You may lose that if it is too hot and too cold as well. So it depends. If we are getting old, we don't have to shower every day. Yes.
I thought you mentioned earlier to take a hot and cold shower every day. Was that in your presentation?
Yes. If you need it at that particular time. For example, if here comes a patient with a certain condition, let's say cancer, we do it on a daily basis. But for you to maintain it, you don't have to shower hot and cold every day. You can skip that. And there are those who may do a cycle of 7 cycles. There are those also who would do it once every week, and then they do it only 1 cycle or 2 cycles of hot and cold. It depends, again, on your condition.
I think you sort of answered my question already. I was going to ask, does just clear water deplete the body oil? Because I figured that's another way of getting clear water except heat. That's what I heard. But as far as hot and cold is very relative. Unless you have an ice tub like Kevin has,
Yes.
we don't get cold.
Yeah.
I went back up to British Columbia in December for 3 weeks,
Mhm.
and I took my hot and cold shower there, and it was cold.
Really cold.
So when I came back here, the cold water just felt warm again.
Yeah. Where's the cold water here in Texas?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not very cold, so
Yeah.
it's really hot and cold here to avoid it bringing any damage to the hot, because you can't get
Yeah, it can. It can.
actually
Yeah.
very cold.
Yeah. And one thing good about it is that if you seal it with cold, the skin pores will close, and that's very important.
There's still, after I got over it feeling warm,
Yeah. So it's good. You made a point there that don't make it too hot if you don't have something that is cold. And that's very important because you cannot just close the pores. If you came from a very hot one and then you don't have a water that is cold enough to close the pores. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So see to it that you have something cold really. And that's the reason why I mentioned that I get some ice cubes, put them in a bucket, and then put some water, and then that would be the cold that I have. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And thank you for mentioning that, Dr. Alvarez, because you see, one thing that many of us have is what? We call this as low-grade chronic dehydration. Why low-grade? We don't feel it, that we are already dehydrated. And it's chronic because it happens basically every day, that we tend to just bring with us just 1 liter of water, and that's it for the day. But it's important that we fill it at least 3 times. It also depends, just to give you a caution, it depends also on your kidney health. You see, there are those who may have been suffering from kidney disease, that they cannot just take that 1 liter of water a day. It depends. And there are those who have chronic kidney disease that we were able to help. Just first regulated amount of water, and then with proper nutrition. Because my area in terms of wellness is not on those natural remedies, but it's more of eating the right kind of food for a particular disease condition. So for example, what are your issues? What are your health issues? And then I would gather some information, I would gather some history, just like how the healthcare professionals would gather the history of the patient, and then I will take note of those ones. And then from there, I would ask, what are your usual routine? What's your usual routine? What do you eat? What are your food preferences? And so on and so forth. And I will bring all of this together. And then I design an initial program so that after that I follow it up, and then I would modify the program as needed, and then I elevate it to certain levels. And I have seen that there are people who respond pretty well. With chronic kidney disease, we have seen that they improve their water intake from a limited amount of 2 to 3 glasses of water for the whole day, or a certain number of ounces. They improve from there, and they are able to increase their kidney functions to a certain extent. It depends on the damage. And we have seen this, miracles after miracles. So again, in terms of water consumption, it depends on your condition. It depends on where you are at. So we can design something for you.
How do we get this research being done for our own families? How do we access it?
Uh, yes, I will check the link and I could send it to Pastor Ernesto so that if I find the link, it's not, it has been on circulation during my time in a research journal, in several research journals. And I have some synopsis of the research. But that has been, I got my PhD way back in 1998. Yes, in 1998. But that protocol is still being used by major hospitals in the Philippines. Yes, yeah. It has been on circulation during that time. And that's how many years ago? I think almost 30 years. Almost 30 years. Yeah. And it was on circulation. And there were some hospitals in the US that picked that protocol. Okay. Yes. And I would say that that's a contribution, a little contribution for the medical science that I did. There's another one here. How can I increase HDL cholesterol in addition to exercise? Laughter. I mentioned about laughter earlier. That way you can increase your HDL cholesterol. HDL is what they tag as good cholesterol. Now, the HDL is a carrier of cholesterol that will take that cholesterol load from the bloodstream to the muscles. Okay? That's the work of the HDL. In contrast to the LDL cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol is cholesterol that is carried by the low-density lipoprotein. Those are the lipoproteins that would bring the cholesterol only in the bloodstream. Okay. Now, if your HDL is high and your HDL is high, the tendency is your I'm sorry, did I say HDL earlier? If the LDL is high, the tendency is the HDL is low. That means that the person may have higher tendency to develop cardiovascular disease because the extra amount of LDL cholesterol will be part of the fatty plaques that would be fastened onto the walls of the arteries. Now, if you increase your HDL, you are able to bring the cholesterol level in the bloodstream down because that cholesterol will be brought to the muscles that are fully engaged. So aside from exercise, there are other things that you can do in order to increase your HDL. You can increase your HDL by your sleep. The 7 to 8 hours of sleep is important, especially between 10 to 2 in the morning. Laughter, I mentioned about laughter therapy. And your positive countenance. Your positive countenance would put the HDL level higher. Okay? It means that you have less tendency to develop heart disease. Okay. And then there are other things. How can someone vegan still have a slightly higher LDL cholesterol? Vegan with a slightly higher or maybe higher, significantly higher LDL cholesterol. How is that possible? You see, the liver is the one that produces cholesterol, okay? That's the main organ where cholesterol is made. Now, what are the signals where the liver will make cholesterol? You see, I could be a vegan, yet my cholesterol level is high. What could be the trigger factor? A vegan who uses a lot of oils. You heard that? Oils. They say, I can use oil. What are those oils that we use? Olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, other oils. We say that these oils are good because they are plant oils. Yes? They are good oils. Some of them are polyunsaturated. They have polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are good. Yet, did you know that these oils, when they are used too much, what is too much? It should not be beyond 3 teaspoons a day. Okay? If we put them so much in salads, in some other food preparations, we use them for cooking of meat substitutes, and then we use them for sauteing and other things. If you expose that same oil, even olive oil, to heat, this could cause that good oil into a trans fat, because the heat would cause the fatty acid to straighten. Okay? When it straightens, it becomes trans fat. You see, in fatty acids, in oils that are what we call polyunsaturated fatty acids, there are kinks or bends in that chain of fatty acids there. And they are unsaturated because they cannot be compact. Okay? If they cannot be compact, that means that the body can make use of them pretty well. Now, they are, in other words, they can be metabolized by the body much better than those that are saturated, those coming from meat fat. Okay? But then, if that good oil that is unsaturated would be subjected to heat, the tendency is for them to straighten, because that would cause, there is a hydrogen atom on one side that will transfer to the other side, and it straightens that fatty acid. When it straightens, it would cause it to be compact, and the body cannot make use of it. Now, those are ways by which the LDL cholesterol can go up. Why? Because those oils, too much of those, will cause the liver to produce more cholesterol. You may ask why. Why does the liver produce more cholesterol? Because if there is fat in the diet, whether good oil or not, it will send a signal to the liver to produce cholesterol, because that cholesterol is used by the liver to make bile. You have heard of this before. The bile. What is the bile for? What's the purpose? Why the liver would make bile? To digest the oil. Yes. If there is so much oil to be digested, then that would send a signal for the liver to make more cholesterol, so that cholesterol would be made, that will be used to make bile. And the bile is an emulsifier. It will cause the chunks of oil to be in droplets, so we call that as emulsification. So with the oil that vegans use too much, all right, beyond 3 teaspoonfuls of oil, that would cause the liver to produce cholesterol. And thus, a vegan who does this will have the tendency to have high level of cholesterol. Now, what's the better option? instead of what? Instead of using oil to saute, for example, you can just use water. Water, that's what we use. Or else, if you need to use olive oil, you cook first the food, and then later on, if you want to use a little amount of oil, you just put it after you cook, so that you are not subjecting the olive oil to heat. You are not subjecting the coconut oil to heat, so that. No, not really. Yeah, it's not the point there. But you have to use the oil sparingly. You remember the food pyramid, right? The oil is just a little amount that you can use. Not because they are good oils, that you can just use so much as you wish, but it should be limited per day, so that your cholesterol should not go high. Yeah, so, yeah, you can use either of them. You can. It depends on the amount. It depends. It's a function of the amount. It's, yeah, because with that, they put some substances that would cause the oil to be heat tolerant. But it's not that. It's not just about heating, but it is about the amount. Yeah. Yes, I think you have a question too. Yeah, yes, please. Yeah.
You mentioned hypercholesterolemia. How common is it for doctors nowadays to recognize?
They usually depend on the lab results. Yeah.
Yeah, well, even with lab results, see, in my family, I know both my sister and I, although even at a time when we're on a low fat, close to the soil, vegan diet, no low fat, high cholesterol, including the LDL. Yeah, put into that. So I concluded that I wasn't the only one. And Dr. Dio, basically at the beginning of his, and a long time ago, when in one of his classes he did the testing and for the test results, he did the interview afterwards, questions what I eat, what I do, exercise, and he says, the only thing I can figure out is that your body is made cholesterol out of the fruit you eat. That's it. He's being cut down on fruit. And I feel, I don't know, I feel I can't use my food as a problem. But here's another thing I'm running across recently. I read a lot of, maybe just one little study that everybody may accept, but the centenarians in the world, whether on Loma Linda or other places, apparently all have relatively high cholesterol. And then the rest of the article goes on all the things that cholesterol does in the body to drain it. So do you have any comments on that?
Yeah. You know, cholesterol is not at all bad. You know, whatever form, HDL, LDL cholesterol. You know, they put those LDL means low density lipoprotein. It's a lipoprotein. All these LDLs, HDLs are cholesterol carrying vesicles in the bloodstream. So whatever type of cholesterol, HDL or LDL, this cholesterol is not at all bad. They are there for a purpose. You see, we need cholesterol to make membranes of the cell, okay, and other membranes. We need cholesterol in order to make, yes, hormones. That's why we have estrogen. Estrogen, it comes from cholesterol. We have progesterone. We have other hormones that are produced from the raw material, which is cholesterol. Vitamin D also is derived from cholesterol. You see, in the skin, there is cholesterol there. That form of cholesterol is what ergosterol, which when the sun would hit that ergosterol, it will be converted into tocopherol or vitamin D, and that will go to the liver, and the liver will do some modifications there before it can be used by the body. All right. Now here, talking about cholesterol, you have been vegan and you have been doing so much things for your health, and that's great. But you mentioned that your cholesterol level is still basically higher than normal. The LDL, yes. There could be other factors. Why not have your doctor recommend you for a genetic testing for LDL, for familial hypercholesterolemia?
We had, well, not, but I had pretty blood work a little while ago. I have it.
Mm-hmm.
State. Both my and haven't checked blood work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been Dr. Deal said as well. Issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also running into this that people that live long lives are sacrificed. I'm wondering whether the emphasis of strong maybe if cholesterol combined with chronic inflammation that would help not that cholesterol is the main thing.
Or high per se, yeah.
Right?
If it is high, yeah, I get your point there, that we may be overemphasizing on the elevated cholesterol, but with those who are centenarians you are saying that they have high cholesterol, but yet they got to that age without any problems with the heart, with circulation, and the other things. So we don't really have to worry about it. And I get what you are saying, that it could be when cholesterol is high and there is chronic arterial inflammation, that could be something that we have to worry about. But if there is no chronic inflammation on the walls of the arteries, the cholesterol load in the blood may not be an issue because they are not going to be deposited on the walls, which I think you are correct on that.
I have another question going back
Mhm.
earlier. Probably. I can talk about hydrogen. Back to Google real quick.
Yes, yeah.
And the first 2 pages, everything is just negative of things that cause elevated temperature. And yet you say the body actually makes hydrogen in order to reproduce. Maybe medicine's just gone crazy because anytime somebody is in elevated temperature, they immediately elevated gas. I've known for many decades that that's not good. That is still going on.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that because you see, pharmakeia, all right? The evil of Dr. Alvarez knows. Yes, the drug companies. Pharmakeia has been the culprit of many of the diseases in the world. Because you see, if you are going to introduce a substance that is foreign to the body, of course, you know, it will alter the normal metabolism of the body. It will alter it. And when it alters, you may be able to address one issue, but then it can create other issues, right? And that I mentioned about the cascade of reactions last night. And this cascade of reactions may have started with only one pill that was taken. And thank you for mentioning about the pyrogens. And I remember one time, this is one thing that happened to my dad. You know, one issue that the doctor found out with him was that his prostate was enlarged, okay? It was not so bad, but yet the doctor started giving him a pill that would address the enlarged prostate, okay? And he took it for several months. And then he called me one time. Son, I'm here in the hospital. What happened, Dad? My cholesterol is high, my blood pressure is high, my triglyceride is high, my sugar is high, and everything. And then my tendency is to ask questions. I asked him, what do you think is the cause? And then he described it. I've been eating well, I have been sleeping well, but just lately my sleeping pattern has changed and things like that. I started feeling the pain here, numbness here, and things like that. And then I kept asking and listening to him for 1 hour or so. And there came a point where he mentioned to me, several weeks ago, I went to my doctor, and he gave me a pill. At first, I felt good, but then I felt sick and sicker and sicker and sicker. One type of pill. Yeah, one type of medication. And then, of course, probably he took it on a daily basis for several weeks. And then I said, can you please tell me what that specific pill? So he mentioned it to me. I took note of it. And then I asked my wife, because this is one specialty area of my wife on pharmacology, nursing pharmacology. And I asked my wife, could you please check on this drug? And then she did some extensive research on the drug. And then I saw those symptoms when taking these ones, relating it to the symptoms my dad described to me. And then side effects, those side effects. And then I called my dad immediately. Dad, how many weeks or days have you been taking this? And he told me, I've been taking this for so long. And then I told him, why not stop taking it? How will I do? And then my my wife warned me about if you are going to stop, there may be sudden withdrawal of a medication may cause certain complications. So you will have to taper it off. But I said, no, we cannot just taper it off because it is going to kill him. So I said, okay, we'll take it by faith. You better stop taking it, Dad. But then the damage has already been there. So his kidneys were damaged, his liver, his thyroid, his adrenal glands, and so on. And that was the beginning. And it went on and on. Even when he stopped it, I tried to help him. And then when I went, I described it this morning, when I went to check him in Hawaii, he was taking his steroids. And that I said, they were slowly killing you, Dad. So I'm not going to taper off this medication. I would like it for you to stop it immediately, whatever will happen. And so I gave him some other natural remedies, and I was able to bring him here with me to Texas. But you know, Dad had his own mind. He was 88. And his organs were affected badly that it came to a point that there is the point of no return, as we call it. And it saddened me so much to see him deteriorate. So again, just one type of pill can alter the biochemistry of the body. And if it is altered, then it can have a cascade of events. I may not say so much about that, but again, generally, these medications can alter metabolism.
Share with us your father's invitation.
Yes. Yeah, I know that they are signaling me to finish this session already, but then if you have specific questions, okay, I'll be glad to address them with you. Okay, you got my number, right? And if in case that you may want me to further address your questions and help you on your health journey, please let us know. We are here to help, and we are willing to help. All right. May the Lord bless each one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Before we leave, we would just like to have a word of prayer for Dr. Tamayo. And I don't know if the microphone is open, that I can use it.
And again, thank you so much, Pastor Ernesto and the rest of you. Thank you. You have shown me a welcoming spirit.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Andrew. So if we can stand up as far as possible, let's have a word of prayer for Dr. Tamayo and also for his ministry. As he mentions, he is wanting to expand it and maybe go back to certain things that you were doing before. But we are thankful again that you accepted the invitation to be with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for the Sabbath that you have given us, the many lessons, Father, that we've learned spiritually, but also the lessons of our body and how you have really made us in a wonderful way, Father.
Yes.
We pray that you continue to use Dr. Tamayo as he continues to minister to different people in different places through phone calls, through emails, through Facebook, and also visiting different churches here in the States and around the world. Father, he is your vessel, and I pray that according to your will, Father, you continue to bless him. And Father, be with us as we also go out and go back to our places. Father, that this knowledge that we have received can be not only useful for our own lives, but that maybe we'll use it, Father, to help others to get better, to be healed, to proclaim, Father, the everlasting gospel with that tool that you have given us of the health message. So again, thank you for this Sabbath, and we praise your name and ask for your protection today and always. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Amen.
God
Thank
bless
you
you.
so much.
God bless you.
God bless you, Pastor.
Tell this wonderful man that we have a house that has land attached to it.